Let's take it to safety.
Hey, what's up everybody? This is Perry with Premier Guitar here in Nashville, Tennessee at the End. Talking to the band End, Your Fucking End. I'm so excited. If you guys are partial to my rig rundowns in particular, then you'll know that this band, oh man, makes me want to jump out of a goddamn building because it's so fucking heavy and I love it.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
So Greg, man, how are you, dude?
I'm doing good. Last day of tour, 3 weeks out. It's been a couple years for everybody.
Right,
so
right.
We're really enjoying it. Yeah,
so
it's going awesome.
Not only are you guys, I mean, end releases have been my favorite in the past couple of years, but this is an interesting rundown because we got two producers in the band. If you guys remember the World is a Beautiful Place rig rundown, so Chris and Greg run Silver Bullet Studios together.
Yep, in Connecticut.
In Connecticut.
Yep.
So we've kind of worked together before, and I think only met a couple of times, but this is fucking awesome. So let's start with obvious. You got a Marauder, which is kind of an oddball.
This is one of my go-to guitars, Gibson Marauder. They made these from like 1975 to 1979. I have 4 of them.
Really?
Yeah, I'm obsessed with these. So my backup guitar is also a Marauder. And these are just fun. They got like underneath the pickguard here, they have what's called a swimming pool pickup configuration, which basically means it's hollowed out. You can put whatever you want in them. So I've seen pretty wild, things, but I customize these to have 2 humbuckers, which is, they don't come like that. So all mine are modified to be like that. And I've been playing these forever. I first saw these guitars in a video for the band Quicksand.
Yeah.
Thorn in My Side, Walter's playing one. I was like a kid. I thought Quicksand was the coolest band. Still think Quicksand's the coolest band. And so I just gravitated towards them, collected them over the years. Bought a lot of them for like $400. Now they're going for a couple thousand.
Yeah, man,
that's just the way it is with these,
So, right out of the gate, it almost kind of has like a Les Paul vibe with the double humbucker. I mean, do you feel like it has those tonal qualities, or do you think that chamber makes a difference?
It actually does, it actually does introduce like some harmonics, and like of the 4 that I have, they all sound a little different.
Sure.
Which is interesting too. So, it does add a little bit of a thing, and it's pretty much like a Les Paul body with like a flying V headstock. That's kind of what it was.
So nasty.
And I think Gibson's intention with this guitar was they were trying to do something that played like a Telecaster, which it doesn't, but that was what their aim was, Sure. And it just ended up like an oddity lost in the 70s that...
Yeah. How fun. What's the neck profile like? I've never actually played one, because...
I mean, it's pretty beat up at this point, since the age and stuff like that. I've had this refretted and stuff.
Sure.
It feels good. I don't know. It feels pretty solid.
Yeah, I love it. I love that the switch is down here.
Yeah.
Because I have a bad habit on the Les Paul of having it up top, So,
I actually have my neck pickup. It's disconnected right now, so this is just a kill switch. At the moment. Yeah, just because we're all in or all out. So.
Now, is that for, if you guys don't already know, he also plays in Misery Signals, which is fucking super tight. So is that the same kind of situation you would have for Misery Signals?
For Misery Signals, I don't use for recording, I'll use it often for clean guitar parts and things like that, but for in the studio and live, I'm just all out. Yeah.
What humbuckers you put in there?
So these are Seymour Duncans. This is the Nazgul and the Sentient. Nothing too fancy. I like they're like pretty high gain, pretty aggressive. They fit what we're doing.
Yeah,
so. Seymour Duncan's not like an exciting one, but my other one that I have for my backup, I have a small boutique builder called Black Triangle. Really cool. And I have a pair of those that he custom built for me, which sound similar to this.
Gotcha.
And I use those as well.
So that's all you're touring with, just this and a backup, but it's an identical backup other than the pickups.
Other than the pickups, yeah.
Very cool. Well, right on. All right, so let's talk about tuning strings and gauges before we get on out of here.
Sure.
A lot of people are of the thought that heavier down-tuned music means heavier gauges. Are you running something crazy?
Yeah, nothing too crazy. We tune to drop C, except our highest string we also tune to C.
Oh, okay.
That's basically just to create a lot of dissonance in our music, so having the C is more useful than the D in that position, which is just like kind of major happy sounding which we never want.
No.
That's never the objective in this
You
band.
guys are certainly not that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just drop C, and I just got 52 to 10.
Yeah.
You know, super basic.
Yeah.
I've used lighter, I've used thicker. I've kind of settled on these on this.
No wound G. I like that.
Yeah.
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 Those suckers are hard to bend.
Yeah, we do a lot of like, there's not a lot of melody in
Right.
Ends music, as opposed to Misery Singles, which is like
Very
all
melodic.
melody.
Yeah,
For this, it's a lot of bending to create dissonance.
Sure.
And it's a lot of stacked octaves to create tension and release.
Right,
So,
right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. All right, so on to amps. I know I personally have heard that particular 5150 a million times. 'Cause
Yeah.
You've had that amp a long time, right?
So that 5150 in particular belongs to the other guitarist in Misery Singles, Ryan, and that's the one that he used on like the first record, Malice, and
Wow.
like Mirrors and stuff like that. And at the end of one of our tours, we switched by accident. And
Oh, you didn't know? Were they
yeah,
identical?
we just switched when we took them. Well, that one has like, that's the first Misery Singles T-shirt, is
Right.
like cut up on it
Oh,
and
okay.
stuff, you know. So it's like an old one he's had kicking around forever. And I just ended up taking it home. He's like, you know what? We're not going to ship it back and forth. Let's just leave it. So I've actually souped that up a little too.
Oh, let's talk about that.
Nothing too crazy. I just had somebody go in and like kind of remove some of the like, I couldn't even tell you, like some of the resistors and stuff. So it's running at a little, it's like actually a little louder than Will's 5150.
Interesting.
It comes out a little louder, a little more aggressive.
Yeah, I've heard some fun mods with 5150s with the filter caps.
Yeah,
I
it's
guess-
exactly
okay.
that. Yeah, it's exactly that.
Right on. Yeah, when I was a kid, I remember the first 5150 I ever bought. It was like the first real amp I bought. There was this dude, I don't know if he's still there, but he was in Ithaca. And what he did is he collected, Ithaca, New York, he collected old VCRs with the huge, thick PC boards, you know?
Nice.
And then he would totally rebuild your amp with one of those fat.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then he would
Yeah.
kind of overclock it and they would get hot. It was the meanest sounding amp at the time.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Yeah, I had a guy do this who, I don't even know if the guy's alive anymore.
Yeah,
It's this
right.
guy, Stereo Joe in Connecticut. He's kind
Stereo Joe, I hope you're
Stereo
watching.
Joe, yeah, total maniac. He'd like meet you at like a bar and you'd drop it off. You had no like location. You didn't know if you were ever going to get it back.
That's some dumble shit.
But I got it back and it sounds good.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
totally.
been holding out for a few years.
With it being, modified a little bit, do you feel like it burns through tubes faster or anything like that?
Thankfully, no.
Good,
With the
yeah.
tubes shortage right now.
Fuck, I know.
Yeah, thankfully, no.
Yeah.
It seems to be, every few years.
All you kids talking shit on Kemper is going to be playing them in no time.
Yeah, I mean, I've got one of those as well.
Yeah,
so.
totally. Well, man, that thing sounds amazing. Actually, before we get into pedals, can we hear like pretty much your bass tone?
Sure.
Going right into it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Dead quiet.
Yeah.
If you guys have ever played a 5150, you know that that's not possible without noise suppression. So we should probably start there because you guys are extremely gainy. Like,
yes.
Not just a high gain band. It's like this is kind of an evolution of.
We're
high
very
gain.
influenced by like the kind of HM2 sounding bands that we grew up with, like Entombed.
Sure.
And then later Rotten Sound and Trap Them and bands like
Right,
that.
right.
And a lot of those bands use HM2s or HM2 clones. What we use instead is the Swollen Pickle, which is kind of tweaked out to get the buzzsaw sound, but it has a little more articulation than the HM2 does.
Yeah, they can get a little muddy. Yeah.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
HM2.
I love them, but we do a lot of like riffing that is demanding on like the right hand, a lot of like gallop picking and stuff like that. So it would just be lost unless we had that. So we run the Swollen Pickle into the distorted channel of the 5150. So
It's a hell of a cascade of a gain
it's
stage.
a lot of gain. It's a lot of gain. So it's taken us a bit to control it, as you hear and stuff. And the way that we do that is on my board here, I have the Zool Plus, which just came out like 6 months ago. It's Fortin Zool Plus. And that just like is a little more customizable with the hold and release, which you don't have on the original Zool, which I also have in my effects loop on the amp.
Running both?
So I'm running both the whole time. So I got this in the front end to control the pickle at its source, and then that just to clean out the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and we turn these off throughout the set because we rely on feedback often, but this keeps it nice and tight. So
I mean, you kind of have this tone that personally I've been chasing like my whole life. Have you had to augment your speaker complement to like,
Well, I mean, we just got these cabs for the tour, These are Atlas cabs that we just had built. They're 612s. Yeah, we
Really
got
pretty. Yeah,
four-
no, oh, 612. I'm thinking, man, that is moving some air, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
it is
okay.
moving some air for sure. We got 4 V30s in there and 2 75-watt creambacks.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And it's just like a classic combination,
blend, yeah.
and we push them. You can hear it, like you can hear the cab really
Moving.
really moving.
Testing that glue, buddy.
It's survived the tour so far. So
yeah, and it sounds phenomenal, man. Really, really good. All right, so fans of End are probably going to associate you with relatively one.
Yep.
No questions.
Just
tone.
Just absolute distortion.
But you do have some fun stuff on here. I mean,
yeah.
I guess let's go through the chain. Obviously, you have a tuner. Everybody needs one of those.
Yep, everybody needs a tuner. We got the Pickle that we talked about and the Zool Plus. And then really where the trickery comes in for End is in the pitch shifting. We use a lot of pitch shifting in the band. Even though we play in drop C, a lot of people hit us up and are like, what tuning are you guys in? Because there's so much low end that comes from the guitar points.
Sure.
And that's through adding octaves underneath, which we do a lot for most heavy parts and things like that. And the 2 main go-to pedals for us are the Pitchfork, the Electro Harmonics Pitchfork, which we're actually using right now on this tour just to fully shift our tuning down. We go down to A sharp for a couple parts here and there. So it's important that we don't miss that one live,
right?
Because it sounds like a
weird.
total fucking nightmare. So yeah, we use that, and that's actually what we use on the record to add in stuff. We like to add in an octave below at like around 50%, something like that, for a lot of our like D beat parts, or the heavy breakdowns and stuff. But for this, we just got this triple graph, the Third Man triple graph, which I also think came out a few months ago, so it's relatively new. And I love this pedal so far. This is like taken over our pitch shifting. We basically have it so like the left side it adds 50% mix in of an octave below, and you can have it latched or just staying on when you're hitting it. And then like the right, you add 50% octave up, and then the middle one's just like 100% both. Fuck it.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Is that like a momentary thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I
you
don't
have to
actually
do
have any points that I use that in the set, but the other ones I use constantly.
I bet. Yeah, totally. Are these dip switches what control the octave? Oh, it locks. It's some sort of lock.
Yep.
Okay.
So basically, you decide if you want so for the high octave here, I have it just on while I'm hitting it because I like just make it
now, is that you
screechy.
bending? Because was that you bending?
I'm bending and I'm doing this. It makes it extra screechy.
Sure.
But the one that we use the most is right here. That's the octave down blended in at 50%. So for a lot of riffs, to say you're
I love that because then you don't have to bring a 7-string. You don't have to worry about floppy strings.
I
like
love playing on 6 strings. I love playing close to standard tuning and doing the pitch shifting. I think in the end, for what I like to do, it's a little more destructive.
Yeah.
It's a little noisier. The imperfections are what I'm chasing. And those little things and those little breakups, that is what I'm chasing.
Yeah, dissonance, I guess, is such a huge part of this band.
Yes, absolutely. And then after that, I've got the pitch shifter delay 3, the PS3.
It's a lot of pitch shifting going on over here.
It's a lot of pitch shifting. So that's one of my favorite pedals of all time. That might be my favorite pedal of all time.
Sure.
It's the one that Caven uses all the time.
Yeah.
Caven's one of my favorite bands ever. So I use that for a lot of the leads. I add an octave delay that's modulating upward in my leads so they just sound fucked up. I think the thing that's great about that pedal is it doesn't work that great. So it sounds noisy.
It tracks a little off.
Yeah, it sounds noisy, and if you're trying to make destructive noise, it's what you want. Yeah, it's what you want. So I got that, and then just a basic MXR carbon copy at the end, which I like a lot. I leave the modulation on that. I like that. I actually use those both together for most of my leads.
Very cool. Now, obviously you guys are both producers. I'm sure you've come across a litany of different pitch shifting devices.
Yeah.
What is it about these as opposed to like a POG or
Well, I found that the Pitchfork tracked the best. Once we found that one, I thought it tracked the best, like using it in the studio and everything like that. A lot of the other ones, there's a little bit of a lag. There's it feels a little weird. And since we're having on a lot of parts that will add up, and because it's like digital for what it's doing, it tracks really well. And then the Third Man, the triple graph, also is digital. So we were able to kind of switch back and forth those. And I've had every pitch shift. I've been obsessed with this for like 20 years now.
Right.
So it's just like, But those seem to be the best for adding the low octave, and then the higher octave, the broken stuff, you can't beat the PS3. So many bands use that, still use that.
So in what way would the Pitchfork work differently than, say, like, a Digitech Drop or something like that? Like
the drop seems pretty good. Yeah, the drop seems pretty good. I haven't used one of those too much, so I'm not quite sure.
Gotcha.
As opposed to the other ones that existed, say like the Boss Octave, that one was real laggy. And I tried to use that for years, and it just didn't do what I wanted it to do. So, yeah, I think the Pitchfork, at least I haven't used the drop, but the Pitchfork is like dead on. I barely notice it. It's subtle, the lag, but and we use it, like I said, we use it to fully shift our tuning.
Yeah.
So I have it running at 100% right now.
Sure.
And I can still play and it feels right.
And it feels right. Yeah.
So.
Plus you guys are, in the context of the whole band, it's a lot of noise happening. So
that's
it's
a lot of
noise.
noise, a lot of feedback, throwing the guitars around,
And I've been so impressed with Jack White's pedals, to be completely honest, man. That Bumblefuzz thing is sick.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love the aesthetic of it. It's like an interesting pedal. It's like super easy to use. Like there's a lot of
It's so pragmatic the way you have it set too.
Oh.
Down, up, both.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Love that.
It's perfect.
That makes life so easy because obviously you're on a pretty fucking dark stage and you guys run a lot of diffusion
and if if you see here, we've got these like little red lights that we also control on stage. We control our own samples and lighting.
Are you doing that with a switch of some sort?
We are on the bass rig. Actually has a foot switch for the lights.
Jay Pepito back there on the
changing
it up.
So he's doing that, and then I run the samples just off a Digitech Jam Man.
Oh yeah,
classic. But we do that because we don't play to clicks.
Sure.
So you
it's
have to feel it right, and it's just noise and chaos that I put in between songs and things like that.
Man, I think this is probably the heaviest sounding rig that I've heard in a long time, so I couldn't be happier.
Well, thank you.
It's a pleasure to actually finally get together with you. I know COVID kind of sucked
I
me.
appreciate it.
Had plenty of stuff planned with Misery Signals and other stuff, but I'm glad that we got to do it for End, because this is great, man.
This is awesome, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Okay, now we're 2 inches over this way with Mr. Will Putney. This is an absolute honor and treat. If you guys listen to heavy music, then you've absolutely heard this guy's releases, because he's put out some of the best sounding records I've heard in years.
Oh, thank you. You're so nice.
Beyond that, you guys don't, if you're young and into hardcore, you don't know how good you've got it, because when we were growing up, hardcore kind of sounded like shit. Like the first, 5 Earth Crisis records didn't sound great.
A couple were okay.
Yeah.
It took a while.
But technology has come a long way, and you have been a huge part of that. Beyond being a huge producer and doing rad bands, you have, the STL tones, right? Yeah. So
there's a plug-in suite with some of my guitar tones. Yeah.
So rad.
Thank you.
I don't want to get too into it because this is a live situation, but how did that come to be? I know you're a real amp guy, so.
Yeah, I'm definitely a big amp guy. I just had never found any really digital emulated amps that did it for me. Like every record I'd ever produced, I was just always using amps, and obviously real amps are great, but there's, it's not always practical for everyone who's trying to record, especially people who are starting out to record and stuff. Right. So I knew the guys at STL, and they approached me about trying to do one, and I was like, look, here's like this amp that I've been playing since I was 18, and I know it's super good. So if you can make a plug-in sound like this, then I'm on board. And they kind of nailed it. So, yeah.
I've actually kind of wondered often. It's like, were the high gain emulations harder to nail, or was it that because most of the companies were kind of catering to rock and blues and other styles of music? Because this is kind of a niche style of music in a way.
I think a lot of it, honestly, it came down to like software.
Right.
Yeah, like a lot of it is just like the intelligence of a programmer and like how deep they go with actually putting the work into that stuff. I mean, STL has spent like months and months writing code and stuff. So it's like there's no shortcut to it. It's just an endless amount of work from like this poor guy computer programmer, But we. It was, and there was back and forth and trial and error and stuff like that. But I think it was like up until that point, I hadn't really seen anyone really put that kind of detail into it. So it's a big shout out to him, because that was like, that really made the difference.
Seriously, big shout out. Now, in that situation, I don't know shit about programming. Does that dude have to kind of already have like an idea of what high gain tones are good? Or is that just a nerd that doesn't play music at all?
I think, I think in the world of like emulation, it's understanding how the components actually translate to code, and being able to make those adaptive to what we like about analog gear. Oh, when it gets louder, it does this, so there has to be like a code for that. Oh, but if you turn this knob, it affects this knob, so there has to be code for that. So it's just endless layers of interaction between all the bits of and components that make, you know, real amps and real pedals and things cool, where it's like, that's a big, giant formula for somebody. Yeah, it's a big code to crack, you know.
Well, Mr. Algorithm, whatever your name is, thank you so much.
Yeah, Federico, thank you.
So much better.
STL, thank you. Yeah.
Well, let's start with this sweet Dunable. Love Sasha and all of his work, and that thing is no exception.
Yeah, I feel bad because I'm smashing it already, but
man.
I know I just got this one for the store, but this is a Dunable Cyclops.
I love that one big ass knob.
Very simple, one big knob, no tone, one pickup. This is the Bigfoot pickup. It's like his hottest passive high output pickup. I just said, you know, give me the crazy one. Yeah. And it's awesome. You know, I was an active guy for a long time, even early in end. I had EMGs and guitars. Sure. I had Duncans I used to play in S1, like Greg's Marauders. That had passives in it, and then I was like kind of back into it, but I was like, those weren't really cutting it for me. This is a little hotter. I just love this guitar. Yeah. Swamp Ash, maple neck fretboard, super light, which is what I wanted because I'm getting old and my back hurts all the time.
And you guys are a pretty high energy band, so
yeah, we move and, you know, playing with heavier Gibsons. Like the S1s aren't too bad, but I did do some shows with like a Les Paul, and I was like, I can't. You know, they sound great, but they're just too heavy. And this clocks in like pretty light compared to what I was used to, and it just feels sturdy without being heavy. You know, it's like hit this like really cool sweet spot for me. But yeah, Sasha makes great stuff, and
man, I just love how sleek it is.
Yeah, it's cool. The red's cool. Like he even threw the little lumen lace on, which has bailed me out on a couple shows where the stage goes dark. So locking tuners, tunematic, standard stuff. But yeah, simple guitar works for what I want to do.
I love that, man. It does the damn thing. Yeah. And then, like you said, you've been, and I know a lot of your plug-in suite as well is kind of based on that specific 5150,
yeah,
right?
So that's like that 5152 I've had since I was like 18. It's been through several techs over the years and just fine-tuned a bit, retubed time after time, but it's always like the one I go to. I have, you know, there's a backup 5150, and I have a 3 at the Studio 2, a 34 one.
I love the 3.
Yeah, they're all great. This is just the one that I like, you know, and it's been on a ton of records too, but it's always the one I play with live, so I was not trying to shake it up, you know, for this tour, but I finally gave it a nice rack over there, which I'm sure the B-roll will show you so it's all wired and nothing will break, so I can bring it back to the studio and use it. But not breaking the mold on that.
You're tracking with that quite often, then I would imagine.
Yeah, it gets work. Sure. We have plenty of options now, but that's always in the mix, you know.
Right. Yeah, and it sounds fucking awesome. Actually, let's go ahead and hear it real quick before we get into pedals, if that's cool. Can you just hear your bass tone?
Sure.
Yeah.
There she is.
Man, so we did a rig rundown with Knock Loose, and Isaac was the first person growing up, like fuzz was not a part of hardcore at all. It was distortion. It was like tube distortion. And he was the first person that I saw do that. You produced most of the records. I'm sure that's kind of where he got the idea, right?
Probably. Yeah. And
okay.
I discovered the Swollen Pickle years ago now. Sure. I don't even know. But it's worked its way onto a lot of records. And it does something really cool with the 5150. Like that combo is sort of like this winning tone for the occasional like gnarly over the top thing. A few bands have like borrowed that idea and pop them on and off live and stuff.
I'm stealing it, buddy.
Yeah. I think the difference being they use it for parts and we're just like full on all the time with it. Yeah.
You guys have that turmoil thing where it's just balls to the walls all the time.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's pretty aggressive. And I wanted, when we started the band, me and Greg talked about just like sticking a tone and being like, cool, this is like our thing. Like this is what we sound. And it's like, it definitely like has its pitfalls and you have to like work around it at times, you know, but it's cool to be able to like have something there where it's like identifiable for what kind of guitar tone we have and what ends like a vibe and aesthetic is. So it's like, it's just become the one, you know.
Yeah.
And I've got a good variety of fuzzes and different HM2 kind of things. We always go back to this one. Like every time we do a record, we try a bunch and we land back on that.
Right.
Like, oh, that's just what we sound like, you know?
It's an interesting fuzz because, you know, fuzzes to me, I mean, I guess nobody has ever used them in this context. They're not using them for gain stacking typically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I guess that's why it sounds so different
I will
to me.
gain stack it at times. Like before this tour, I did have the Spooky Vibes guy brought me like just an overdrive, which was like a TC 808 flippable, sort of like adjustable, multifunctional overdrive pedal. And I was using that for a while, and in the studio I still do use that too. It's a really cool company called Spooky Vibes that gave me like an all-in-one overdrive.
Do they make typically just heavy like overdrives and stuff like that?
Yeah, he's kind of like a small builder who just mixes it up and stuff.
I love the name.
Yeah, but he's just a smart guy, and he was a fan of the band and sent me this really cool pedal that was on the pedal board for a while. I just kind of was running out of real estate on this tour,
Sure.
so I was like, you know what, I'll just go straight, and I've actually been enjoying it straight, but for a while I was like tone stacking it with overdrives too. We just sort of tweaked the way we use the pedal now, where we were able to like
Sure.
eliminate a pedal.
Well, and with that much gain, if you're stacking, it can get away from you really quick.
Yeah.
So are you also running a noise suppressor in the...
Yeah, so there's two gate stages. There's like this Zool Plus, which has the key input. So I don't know if Greg explained
A little
this.
bit. So that's basically analyzing what other pedals are coming into it.
So the key input, it's basically just looking at the DI,
Okay.
and then it lets me run out of that like a through into the fuzz pedals and the octave pedals, and then back in.
So is it only engaging when...
So it's
not
keying off just the clean DI, not the
that's how you're
distortion
getting such
pedals.
a tight...
That which helps like create a tighter tone, because otherwise you'll have this like kind of wall fuzz, and you know
noise.
what that does to a DI. So
Sure.
using that Zool Plus has been really useful. There's other like four input gates, but that seems to be the one that's catching stuff the fastest for us. And
Yeah, because it's real quick.
yeah, it can get it really quiet, and it's been a useful artistic tool too, to be dead silent and then to be able to turn this on and
Oh,
off.
sure. The dynamic that you can create is just unbelievable.
So it's cool. And then to eliminate the amp hum, there's just like a classic DBX 266 in there, which is like in the effects loop just to kill the 5150. So like our stage volume, like I'm fully on at full volume right now.
And if you guys have ever played a 5150, that is not normally the case.
Yeah, if you want to hear the, I mean, you probably can hear it through here.
Yeah.
So that's what you're used to, and that's what it is, you know.
And, you know, what I love about that is that, you know, like an NS2 or maybe a ISP decimator or something like that, it doesn't react. You know, like the reaction is so different, but I can tell for you, it's like, that's what the sound that you're used to hearing and need to hear, and it's quiet. So.
I like this. When we got both amps silent, like we tightened up, and it did sound more aggressive in a way.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's hit on some of these other pedals because it looks like you got some fun stuff.
Yeah, so it's pretty simple for this run. We do a lot of pitch shifting stuff, so there's two options here.
Sure.
We were on the Pitchfork as like a main octave up, octave down pedal for a long time, but I wanted something that let me have the ability to do the low and the high independently, and that's where we found these triple graph pedals, which is really cool because there's a momentary and a latch function selectable on a low octave and a high octave, and you see the way I have it set up. I can turn this on, and I'm just living on the low octave. Then I can momentarily just tap it to give me the high octave. I've always wanted that. I know there's a Pitchfork Plus. I think you might be able to do it now, but I just saw this and thought it was cool. And you get this middle button, which lets you just dump 100% wet, so it's a cool effect too. But we've been using that, and then the Pitchfork's still living on the pedal, which acts as like a backup for it. And there's a couple songs where we actually change the tuning within the song. So the way I have it set right now, I'm just going down a major second for this song where we drop tune in the middle of the song because we're dumbasses and decided to write a song like that, and now I need that. But, so that gets used in the set for that, and it's kind of like a backup.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is cool.
If it went down, you could probably make your way.
If that went down or that went down, I could still play a set.
Yeah.
And a lot of my pedal board is like built-in redundancy. Like there's two different distortion pedals, there's two different pitch pedals, there's two different wet effects, just in case one blows it, you know.
Right. Now, the Swollen Pickle is kind of an always-on thing, right?
The Swollen Pickle is an always-on thing.
What is this distortion pedal over
So this
here?
is like the Demon Log. This is just another, like, I guess it's based off a hyper fuzz, but it has like, it's got a clean blend and like a mid forward thing. We do the occasional like doomier thing where I've been experimenting trying to like kick that on with that. Right now, I think I'm just doing too much.
Yeah.
But as a standalone pedal, it's like a really good pedal. And I think it does sound good with the low octave, with the low octave engaged. It kind of adds like a more traditional fuzz sound, less of like a gnarly mid-forward thing.
Right.
You know.
Cool, and then moving on, what is the Lonely Ghost? Is that
So Lonely Ghost is a Michael Klein, who's a really cool pedal builder. He's been building a lot of great stuff for like dudes in the death metal world. I know he's got a line of stuff with like Sammy from Goatwhore now, and he's just a great guy. We met over the pandemic online and been kind of nerding out and stuff. And the Lonely Ghost is like one of his like in production like standard pedals. It's a delay, a reverb, and a boost, sort of all in one.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's just like I have very simple delay reverb parts where I just need a little of both.
Little shimmer.
And a little thing. It's not so shimmery. It's more like more classic like hall style.
Gotcha.
Kind of can get pretty long. There's like a dwell button on it where you can get pretty good. But for like the black metal-y kind of stuff, trem riffs and things, it does a really good job. And it gives you this little boost on the side too, so you can even push the amp more.
Wow.
Yeah, it would work in a variety of genres. It's like actually a really simple but versatile pedal.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy it.
No, I love the control, 6 knobs and that boost. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, they like he snuck that one on the side, which is
that
cool.
like a set it and forget it kind of thing?
Yeah, more or less. Like where I have it dialed seems to work for the set, so I don't really have to touch it, which I like. I don't really want to touch stuff on the floor anymore.
You got enough going on.
Yeah. So it's been, like I actually haven't had to touch it all tour. You know, I just like kind of put the knobs where it works for a couple leads I need for, and then that's it. We're there.
Rules.
So, yeah.
All right, I guess that just leaves this Earthquaker pedal here, which I am not familiar with. What do you got?
Yeah, this is like a newer sort of shimmery verb that they put out, Astral Destiny. It has this stretch function, which is really cool. And it does this low and high octave blend into like a long reverb. So this is like for more ambient passages that we have and like some little interlude things and stuff, kicking that on.
Is the stretch thing like a momentary feature kind of?
Yeah, I'm not, like I haven't fully figured it out. I can hear the pitch change and then I hear it longer. Like I just got it before this tour, so I played with it and I like dialed a sound or two. So I do want to spend more time with it because there's like this abyss function and there's all these like modes, but I've just like knocked in a preset or two for the set. And they're great. That's exactly what I was looking for. I used to use the Descent by Walrus Audio.
Great, yeah.
So if you know that pedal, it's like lives sorta in that world. Probably didn't make the cut because of the real estate, where the Descent like actually wouldn't fit. It's a great pedal, but it's just like a little big. And this is kind of compact a little more. It got me pretty close to a similar tone. That's been on a couple N records, so I was like, okay, we'll go with this guy. But yeah, both companies rock, Walrus and Earthquaker.
Yeah, they make great stuff.
Yeah.
I love a shimmer pedal in the context of extreme heavy because, you know, a lot of times you think shimmer and it's like shoegaze bands or, you know, somebody making pretty music, but when it's applied to something very heavy and evil sounding, it just makes it that much creepier and it's awesome.
There's a few like pretty moments in all the fuzz where it's like actually doing something pretty cool.
Well, damn. All right. So you guys, this is your last show of the U.S. leg, right?
Yep, that's
And then you go on to Europe?
Yep, we go to Europe in May. Out there with Conjure for most of that run. And then we actually have more stuff planned this summer in America, so we'll be back.
So just out of curiosity, how the hell are you finding time?
Well, we had a bunch of stuff lined up before the pandemic that was like hyper organized and scheduled. And then, you know, everything obviously fell apart, but we've had, so we had a couple years to kind of regroup and figure it out. So,
well, do you have like a personal assistant or something? It was between your, you know, illustrious recording career.
No, I mean, I've got some guys, I've got assistants at the studio who definitely help keep the ship rolling while we get busy with other things and stuff too. But luckily, we were able to just get all our work done, me and Greg, so we can both be out here having fun and stuff. This is basically a vacation, so it's
totally. Well, man, I couldn't be happier that you got your work done so that I can see kids lose their minds tonight and jump off the stage.
Should be a fun one. Looking forward to it.
Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Of course,
really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to stay tuned for more rig rundowns, riff rundowns, video lessons, all that fun stuff. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.